I didn't get it. So, welcome everybody to the 17th Genesis block anniversary. We're gonna kick off this year with Amaury Séchet, the developer of Ecash, one of the coins that is celebrating its Genesis block anniversary today. Amaury, welcome. Good to have you back.
Well, I want to say welcome back, but that's not my show, so.
No, okay, but for you, it's welcome back. I'm glad that we have you again because, like I said, you are you are representing one of those coins that has started exactly 17 years ago. Mm-hmm. And what a 17 years it has been so far. And well, that's always the perfect reason for me to invite you to this day. And so, yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about the last year for Ecash. I've seen many integrations in payment providers, pay buttons, things like that. But of course, you know much better what has happened in your year. So why not bring us up to date a little bit and hear, and so we can hear what you've been doing.
Yeah. So last year we mostly took advantage of technology. I think we talked about it a little, in the previous podcast a year ago. But we basically, like, we're a fork of Bitcoin, and on top of it we have this technology called Avalanche that allows us to add like various value add feature to Bitcoin. And so I think, at least to me, the two most important one that we were able to roll out this year are Heartbeat. So Heartbeat is a way to have blocks come more regularly by doing targeting. Like, there is a difficulty adjustment in Bitcoin most cryptocurrency. And with Avalanche, we can add a real-time component to that difficulty adjustment. You're like, usually you have the difficulty that is set for the next block by some algorithm, and
for example, with Bitcoin, it's, I believe, every 2000.
Bitcoin, it's every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But that only works because Bitcoin is the biggest coin.
Yes.
If it was not the biggest coin, this would like fail catastrophically to do it every 2 weeks. So what most coins are doing is to do it every block. And what we can do is actually add a real-time component to it, so that like even blocks are more evenly spaced than they would be otherwise. So I think that's a very nice quality of life, right? Because everybody that have used cryptocurrency, I had this experience that, you make a transaction and then the next block takes forever to arrive, because we say like one block every 10 minutes.
Especially if you were in the early days and only used Bitcoin at that time. That was like, you were sitting at 1 at night being stressed. Why is my Bitcoin
because like we often say a block every 10 minutes, but this is what happens on average, right? But what happens in practice is like sometimes you have a block that comes after 1 minute. Sometimes you have no blocks for like 25 minutes. It's, it's very random. It's 10 minutes on average, but in practice, it's very, very random.
Yes.
And so the user experience for that is not the best. Plus, on minority chain, there is a lot of detail there, but it incentivizes switch miners and stuff like that when you don't adjust difficulty quickly. So therefore we developed that technology that we called Heartbeat, that, like its name indicates, it tries to get the beating of the blockchain more regularly, and that works quite well. And so the user experience is like greatly improved, but also for the miner, it's better because they don't have to deal with switch miners and stuff like that as much as before. So that's the one, technology that we developed that I like. Otherwise, we also,
because I'm not so technical, so I'm trying to ask a question, or I perceive what you are saying, but is it like something like you start with a very high difficulty and then in the same block over time it gets reduced, something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, then I got a hang of it, of how it's going.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously that's also like that's the gist of it, but in reality it's more complex than that, because all the nodes on the network are not going to receive the block at the same time, right? Which means that if you do real-time targeting, they are not going to agree on what the difficulty is when they receive the block, because they don't receive it at the same time and their clock is not synchronized and so on, right? So you need a mechanism to reconciliate, because it's possible that some nodes say, okay, this is like good according to real-time difficulty, and some other nodes say no, like according to us, it's not good, and so they need a way to reconcile themselves, and this is where the real difficulty is. Like there is a lot that I'm sweeping under the rug here, because
keep it simple, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But this is where the real difficulty lies. You need to make sure that at the end of the day, all the nodes are gonna agree on what is a valid block and what is not. And with real-time difficulty, it's it's more difficult.
And so that input is coming from Avalanche.
Yeah, exactly. We use Avalanche for the node to talk to each other and come to an agreement on whether a block matched the real-time difficulty or not.
That's a good solution, man.
Yeah, and so if they don't receive the block exactly at the same time, or their clock is not, set exactly the same way and whatnot, they're gonna come to an agreement anyway. So that's one of the things that we rolled out. And otherwise, the other one, I think the most important one, is pre-consensus.
Okay.
So pre-consensus is essentially the same idea that I explained for blocks, but for transactions. So all the nodes are going to use Avalanche to decide on a set of transactions that is valid. And then it's not possible to mine a double spend of those transactions. So that doesn't mean that they get into a block right away necessarily, but you cannot do double spend of those transactions. So they are just as good as confirmed. Because Avalanche is much faster, we can do that in typically less than 2 seconds. So this is gonna depend on the load on the network, on various stuff like that. But it's almost always, even almost always less than 1 second. But if there is some load on the network, it can take 2 seconds, something like that. But it's very, very fast. And within that time window, we can say, this transaction is good or this transaction is no good.
And so that's how you create a zero confirmation instant transaction. And
exactly.
Keep the cache in Ecash.
Well, the name says, the name says it. We want to be electronic cash, and when you pay by cash, you don't have to wait 10 minutes, in the shop for.
No, it's even worse. It's
even be stamped by someone or whatever. This is a good transaction, right? So it needs to be very quick if you want to be able to use it as cash. So historically, what people have been doing is they rely on zero-conf, but it comes with its own set of issue, and people usually don't understand the trade-off very, very well. And at the end of the day, the trade-off that you're making when you do zero-conf is that you trust, and in normal time, you need to trust the network as an aggregate, right? You don't need to trust that any one participant in the network is honest, but you need to trust that the aggregate of everybody in the network is gonna, tend in the right direction. But there might be a lot of dishonest participants in the network. When you do zero-conf, you are assuming that the overwhelming majority of participants in the network are honest, which is sometimes true, sometimes not.
The smaller the coin is, the more difficult that becomes. Because
typically the smaller the coin is, the truer it is in normal day-to-day operation, but the easier it is for someone to show up out of nowhere and become important on the network. And therefore, you can trust it, and then one day to the next you cannot trust it, and nobody is warning you, right? So it's a bit of an issue. So with that, we don't need to trust anyone, and we can just validate transaction. It takes less than 2 seconds typically, and after that time, the transaction, we call it finalized. If you look in the block explorer, there is a little check mark next to it when it's finalized, and it's very, very quick. And when it's finalized, you cannot double spend it. So you know that the transaction is good.
And another question I have that I'm going to ask all the participants of today is what about privacy and fungibility? Because last year, 2025, the new narrative seems to have been, or at least for me, was the breakout of Zcash in a way, which led the way for an enormous amount of privacy coins to rally. So the real issue is for me not even the privacy, but the privacy is linked with it, but the real money is fungible. The problem that I see with a lot of the older UTXO coins, because of the transparent blockchain, is that the one coin cannot be replaced by the other because they have a different history. Is Electron Cash making steps towards being more fungible in that way?
So there is another issue that you don't cover in your question that I think is important.
Okay.
And not to say that what you said is wrong, because that's actually right. But if we add that extra component, it's important to understand the answer. Because one thing that you win when you add privacy is fungibility, right? But there is one thing that you lose is auditability. Right?
Yes.
Because no, suddenly you cannot know how many coins are in circulation, or basically like all the monetary property of what's going on in the blockchain are completely opaque now.
Yes.
And
you
obviously
cannot
that's the whole point of privacy.
You cannot verify anymore because now you have to trust in a way.
Exactly. You have to trust. So you don't need to trust someone, you need to trust the algorithm, but still, it's if someone find a flaw in the algorithm and exploit it, for instance, you will probably never know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And not suddenly there is more money in circulation, but there is no way for you to know.
Yeah.
So you have, like, on one hand, you would want privacy feature, but on the other hand, you want hard money properties, and the two really come in tension. And so the way we think about that with Ecash is that we want opt-in privacy features. We don't want like everything private by default, right? And this way you can still verify the monetary property of the chain. Obviously, like, there is an obvious trade-off here, is that our privacy is never going to be as good as something like Zcash or something like Monero, or like this kind of coins that go full-blown privacy. But we also know in practice, because we have asked about those technology to company that track coin history and stuff like that, that it's quite difficult to track down. Obviously, like, not impossible, but it's quite difficult to track down. So it's a level of security that's going to be adequate for most people. And yeah, as you mentioned, like, there are stuff like that in Electrum. So the way, like, if you want to gain some privacy with your money, in Electrum there is a fusion feature.
Okay.
So you have to, like, if you keep your Electrum running somewhere in some computer and you enable the fusion feature, it's just gonna, like, tumble your coins around in a specific way.
Is it like is it like a Mimble-Wimble extension block on Litecoin? Is it something like that?
There is no extension block, but it's more similar to technology like Tornado Cash, for instance.
Oh yeah, like a mixer.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's active today on Ecash, because I didn't know.
It was last year, by the way. It's not like some new feature that we just rolled out. Obviously, like, you have to let it run a bit, right? Because if you like,
you need to mix it
especially
well.
the longer you get it to run, and the better opacity you get, right? If you just running like for 5 minutes, then you only get privacy with the set of people that are doing the same during the same 5 minutes, and that set of people might not be like huge. But if you let it run, suddenly, like, you get entangled with everybody that uses the system over time, and it's basically impossible to track down where the money comes from. there is another technology that I like quite a bit, but unfortunately it's not developed to a degree where people can use it easily, but it's the stamp protocol.
Okay.
And basically, with the stamp protocol, you can have pair of users negotiate transaction in between each other with set of addresses that are unique to this pair of users and that nobody else can track. And so when you use that, all the transactions appear, like unique in the void, like one-to-one UTXO transfer, stuff like that. So they are not linked to like all the transactions. Typically, if I were to pay you, I don't have a UTXO that match exactly the amount of money that I owe you, right? And so I'm gonna have to aggregate like a bunch of UTXO that come from my wallet and then send the corresponding amount to you, to some of your address, and the extra money, because the amount is not gonna match exactly, it's gonna have to be returned to me. And now like a set of address that I have, where the money returns, and suddenly if I spend that money that I returned to me, the change, then like more addresses that belong to me. And when you start using like that, you're gonna be able very quickly with public information to recover like what my wallets look like and how much money there is in it and all of that, right?
Yes.
But what I can do with the stamp protocol is select a set of UTXO that are gonna roughly amount to the right amount, and instead of like joining them in a transaction as a whole, I can do like a bunch of one-to-one transaction to you, but nobody else can know that all those transactions, they come from the same payment and whatnot. And so that makes everything like much more difficult to track, because like each UTXO is moving on its own and not linked to other UTXO on the chain. It's a very interesting technology. Like from a tech standpoint, it's a solved problem. Shama Chancellor developed that, but there is not like a wallet that I would say is like sufficiently developed to put in the hands of all the users like that. Like people that are willing to experience strategies and whatnot, they can try it, but I wouldn't say it's ready for broad use at this stage.
You need a little bit of computer knowledge to get it working properly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you need to, let's say different, you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's still at the for developer kind of like you need to be a bit of a computer nerd to use it at this stage. But I think it's even better than mixings and stuff like that. To me it's the best trade-off, because on one end you don't have to obfuscate the monetary property of the blockchain, and you don't have to let something run in the background to mix your coin or whatever. It's just the way the payment is done is much harder to track than like even for you, because now you receive like a set of transactions. That those UTXO that I paid to you are mine, but what good does it like what do you get out of that? You don't know, because you don't know what other UTXO do I have. And they're never gonna be linked with the change or anything, because it's just one-to-one transactions. So now that this money that I sent you was mine before, but you kind of knew that already.
Yes.
Right? But you don't get to infer anything else about my wallet.
Okay, now that's I have to look into it more. I've heard of that stamp. I believe there was a lot of controversy about stamp in Bitcoin, because it was a spam that could not be filtered.
Oh, okay. This is not the same thing at all.
It's not the same thing. Oh, then I'm very glad that I mentioned it.
So it a bit unfortunate that that's the same name. The stamp protocol that we have is actually, I think, is older than the stamp on Bitcoin that is controversy. But the stamp on Bitcoin is a way to put inscription on the blockchain that are not like monetary. It's a way to attach some data with a transaction.
And within the header or something, right? It was in the...
like in a special field in the transaction. And what people are after when you use Stamp is like those data. It's not like the transaction itself. They're gonna do a transaction with like a very minimal amount of money just to put those data in the blockchain, and then those data like can be like some piece of text or a picture or small picture or stuff like that. And people like to do that, but other people see it like, you know, as doing like graffitis and whatnot, you know, like a bit of a like you put a bunch of data in the blockchain that have nothing to do with monetary transaction, which it is for. And so it's created quite a bit of controversy on Bitcoin, especially since Bitcoin are very small blocks. So if people are putting those in the blocks, that means that someone else is not able to, you know, put like actual monetary transaction in the block. And so it's creating like a bit of tension between people that see the blockchain as a like everything goes kind of thing, and people that are like, okay, the blockchain is like for monetary usage and everything else is you know, spam or whatever. So yeah, the two groups are a bit at odds, but it's not like a privacy feature or a payment protocol or anything like that.
I'm glad you clarified that, because the stamp word got me confused. And so maybe with regard to spam, does Avalanche also help you to scale Electron Cash, or are you like I think that Bitcoin Cash this year made what's the name of that? The size of the block adjusts itself to the amount of users. Do you have some plan? Do you have something in the works to make it more scalable?
So at the stage that we are at both BCH and Ecash, actually making the block size adjustable doesn't really help scaling, because, you know, it's like you have to think as the block size of like a speed limit on the road kind of thing, right? So if you say, you know, like if previously the speed limit was, I don't know, like 50 kilometers an hour, and now you make it 100, and it's like, you know, not within a city or whatever, then people are going to be able to go faster, right? But if suddenly I say the speed limit is like 1,000 kilometers per hour, it doesn't matter that much because your car is not able to drive that fast.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I missed it. Can you repeat?
Like, you see what I mean? Like at some point, increasing the speed limit is so it's like it's necessary if you want to go faster. Obviously, you have to raise the speed limit, but at some point, this is not the limiting factor. And both like Ecash and BCH are very much at that stage. So I understand what the BCH dev are going after. They don't want to find themselves in a situation like Bitcoin was, where one day, you know, like the blocks are full and nobody wants to take the responsibility of increasing the block size and whatnot. Well, if you make it adjustable, then that problem is like solved forever, and you can move on to something else. This is eventually something that we want to do, but there's like, you know, there is no hurry to do that really. There are many other issues.
So well, tell me
many
about
of them Avalanche do help with, actually. Like one of the issue is the transaction chain in the mempool.
Okay.
So say like I make a transaction to you and you make a transaction to someone else and they make one back to me and so on, and we create like a chain where the money move between many different addresses. All those transactions, they depend on each other, right? And in the first one, somehow you do a double spend on that and the double spend get mined. Then every single node has to unwind the whole chain of events and get back to like the double spend of the transaction. And like it's simple to explain in principle, but it's actually a lot of work for each node to do this kind of thing, especially since you can create like absurdly long chain, you know, that would take way too long for me to describe, but like for a computer, it's very easy. You do a transaction and you respend the output and you respend the output again and again. And you do that like 10 times per second. And after, you know, like a few minutes, you get like absurdly long chains, right? So you can do this kind of stuff. And that's actually a security problem at some point, because the amount of work that you need to do to unwind the chain is like so huge that, you know, you could bring down, nodes on the network with that. But if as the chain grows, we start finalizing transaction, then we know that they cannot be reorged, and so only the non-finalized tip of the chain is at risk of being reorged. So there is like a fair amount of stuff like that Avalanche make it much safer to scale, but like very much at this stage in both BCH and Ecash, the kind of like bottleneck for scaling are this kind of issue, like how you handle chaining transaction, how do you handle like fast propagation of the blocks, or do you it's a very, very long list of smaller issue rather than one big issue at this stage.
And this mostly occurs with a bad actor that just wants to bully you and put something like that in.
Yes, but it depends. Like the block propagation is not, but some of them are something that have bad intention could do that and ruin it for everybody.
Hey. All right. Well, here is our another side host. Peter is here. Welcome, Peter.
Hello.
Yeah, that is Peter.
Let me just ask you, Amaury, about the upcoming year. What is in the store for us regarding Electron Cash?
I don't know that there is necessarily a lot in Electron Cash coming, I'm afraid, because most of development work is done on Cash Tab today, and other, like we try really to, like the focus is trying to make stuff that are very easy to use by everyday people. And if we're honest, like the Electrum interface is not the most user-friendly, I would say. So we have another wallet that is called Cash Tab that is way more user-friendly. And like hopefully it's gonna become even more. And like same as for scaling, unfortunately, like everything that is UX is more of a death by 1,000 cut than we have this big feature and then everything is gonna be easy to use, right? It's like removing a bit of friction here and there and so on until the thing is easier to use.
So maybe I can share a little bit with you about my last year. I am connected with a group of people that are under the umbrella of community coins. I still believe that this is a niche that still has to be explored in a way, although in some way all coins are community coins. But the specific thing about these coins is that they focus on a certain country, which I then take as a political statement in a way. We have to vote with our wallets. And this year they launched what they call a ring of trust, which is our proposal to replace the traditional SPV servers because they lack some good functionality. Every month your SPV server breaks and you need to restart it. And well, I would like to invite you. I will send you the GitHub of this thing, and because we are also in development of a new wallet where basically every coin that implements the Ring of Trust framework can automatically use that wallet. Of course, somebody needs to implement it for each coin, and the wallet developer is not for that. But with that Ring of Trust, you can then add a lot of information on top of somebody's account, for example, their location or their profession or their things like that. That's what I understand from it. So,
Yoshi, what is a SPV server?
SPV server is simple payment verification is what SPV stands for, and basically every mobile wallet that you are using, for example, Coinomi, we all have an issue with Coinomi because Coinomi hijacked the wallets of a lot of coins by just stating they need to have $50,000 to list your coin in their wallet, while the real infrastructure still has to be provided by the community. So we don't need that Coinomi wallet. If we run that infrastructure, all we need to do is develop a similar to Coinomi wallet where people can add their own coins instead of being dependent on what Coinomi allows their users to access, which coins they allow.
Coinomi provides the trust or something. If they put it on their list, that is the trust. Or now.
Well, no, the Coinomi is.
But
just
they provide a unified interface for a very large number of coin, I would say, right?
Sorry, what did you say?
Like they provide a unified interface. Like within your same wallet, you can have every single coins you can think of under the sun, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, like behind the interface, there is also servers that allows, that track every single blockchain and are able to send to the wallet the proper information required.
Yeah, but that is, in my opinion, the task of the community to provide that. So not Coinomi shouldn't have to set up these servers. If the community makes sure there is an SPV server available, then your wallet can run on that, can run that coin. So of course, Coinomi today does run these SPV servers. That's why they ask for that money. But in my opinion, that's up to the community. And if we don't rely on the Coinomi to run these servers, but do it ourselves, we don't need to pay any party some X amount of dollars to be running those servers because we are doing it. So, well, I'm going to find the link to that stuff. I'm going to send that to you. In case you think it's interesting, I would like to invite you to one of the meetings, and maybe we can add Electron Cash as a community coin in the group, and have you also implement this ring of trust. It's just, I am not a developer myself. The guys who are building this are coming in 3 hours, so they know, they can tell you a lot better what's happening. But yeah, that's something that I'm looking forward to this year, and I think that at least every UTXO coin, I'm not sure if it works for Monero, for example, because I don't think it does, but let me invite you to look at that.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know, I don't have much to add because I'm not familiar with the project so far, but
yeah.
That being said, we noticed like some of the problem you mentioned, and notably the instability of SPV servers and whatnot. So first, like with Ecash, we run some of our own server, like Electrum server and Chronic server and whatnot, so that people can connect their wallet to those servers and that it works properly. That's one thing, but also we've integrated an indexer into the node,
okay,
which I think like no other Bitcoin-like chain has done, and I'm not sure why. Because one of the main reasons for which those servers are unreliable is that you need an extra piece of software in addition to the node that we call an indexer, that allows you to, like, if you give that software an address on the blockchain, it can tell you like what are the coins that are at this address. And surprisingly, this is not something that the node needs to have for normal day-to-day operations. And so most of software, they just don't maintain that index. But this is something a wallet needs to have, right? And so if you want to connect a wallet to some server to know what is in the wallet, then you need to have an index of what is in which address. And so what most people do is that they have the node software, and then they have an indexer that is another piece of software, and the two talk to each other constantly so that the indexer can try to maintain the index. And that is incredibly fragile, right? Because if the node goes down and then restart, the indexer might miss some transaction and know the index is invalid, right? Or If there is a reorg, there is a lot of communication that needs to happen between the two. It's very easy for one of them to miss some information. If the indexer crash at some point, it's not that you just need to restart it, but it's also that you need to reconcile the state of the index with, because during the time you restarted it, some stuff happened on the blockchain and the indexer doesn't know about them, right? So it's a freaking nightmare to keep that thing working. And when the indexer get out of sync with the node for some reason, you need to reindex the whole blockchain, which takes like a day or something like that, right? And so now the whole node is not gonna work for like a day. And so this whole thing is incredibly finicky to run and maintain, and breaks like quite often. For some reason, this is how everybody does it. And so what we've done in Ecash is that we have put an indexer in the node. And so it's not like necessarily enabled by default, like you need to turn out some switch to enable it, because obviously like people that don't want to run an indexer, they don't need that index for the day-to-day operation of the node. But if they want to, they flip the switch and not the node is maintaining an index. And so now you don't have like these two pieces of software that need to be kept synchronized somehow, because it's the same software and it's always synchronized with itself. So like this whole categories of problem, they just all go away.
With that index.
And so yeah, we have a much easier time to run those servers than.
So maybe you already solved that problem in that way, because that was one of our issues with these SPV servers. We do run our own SPV server. My new website, yoshilivo.com, also has one. But yeah, they break sometime. And so this alpha test that we launch now, or we could say beta test, because it's a product of multiple years of work, and well, maybe you are interested in it. It's something I can share with you that I've been doing in this last year.
Yeah.
Peter, now that you're here, do you maybe have a question for Amaury? Let me first say, because Peter uses crypto a lot and often, but Electron Cash, Peter, I assume. It is a fork of, well, strictly taken, it's a fork of Bitcoin Cash, but it has the same Genesis block as Bitcoin.
I did use Electron wallets in the past to get out hard fork, to get out. Is that the same Electron Cash?
By the way, yeah. I want to interject here. Like, Electron Cash is the name of the wallet.
Ecash.
Like, yeah, the chain and the coins is just Ecash. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Ecash.
But that was a form of Bitcoin, a fork of Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
I was not even aware of that. Sorry, I'm not that into it.
No. Okay. So that's why I made this small introduction. But now that you know this info, is there some question?
Yeah, can I get my Bitcoin Cash and get the fork out, or what is it?
I mean, it's been forked like 5 years ago, but if you have still the wallet from back then, the Ecash should be in there.
Yeah, probably do. Yeah. But what is it? What is different from Bitcoin Cash? What was the?
But not by now, but essentially like instant transaction, better security, more reliable block time, a bunch of stuff.
They have been working hard for 5 years.
Aren't you? Sure.
Also reliable indexers.
Reliable
as we just talked about.
But Bitcoin Cash was also reliable, or the times I used.
Well, I can tell you the indexer on BCH have not been reliable.
Yeah, the problem in that is with this group of speakers, we are not all so technically savvy in that way, and usually don't experience those kind of issues because, well, I've been clicking some Bitcoin Cash tokens last year, and sometimes I send a transaction, but that is, as for, I know how to use it.
Probably less. I just have it in a wallet. I have not done a lot with it, except when you had this Bitcoin Cash experiment you did recently, or I bought some of your neighbor and I used it to go this Trade Uyghur, was it Trade Uyghur, or this thing where you could buy these tokens?
It was
free Roger vrije tokens.
Yes. Yeah, I ran a little promo, I would say, but something like that to free Roger Ver. Unfortunately, without a lot of interactions with others, but I did my task. I feel like that. Do you have anything to say about that court case, Amaury? In what way are you, for example, there is now in the EU a lot more regulations. I saw a tweet yesterday from somebody that said that Samurai Wallet now disabled all custodial Lightning wallets in France and Netherlands and Germany. And with the regulation happening more and more, is there going to be a moment at which you say, Amaury, I am not going to stand up for this anymore? Why am I the guy who is doing all these things? Why are there not more people involved to take the burden in fighting this monster of a government?
And nowadays, even developers are at risk, right? There's some developers who have been arrested recently. Certainly, I think if it has to do with privacy, or if it has a mixer or that kind of stuff, right?
Well, not just privacy. Many of the legal framework are pretty bad. I can talk about that from first-hand experience because I've been sued in Florida and in the UK. So one thing, by the way, like Americans, I feel like they feel very secure about themselves that they are on the side of freedom on that one. Well, I've been sued in Florida for those bullshit. So it's like not really better in the US, unfortunately.
Before the changes with the new SEC and because a lot of cases have been dropped also.
No, it was not even like, it was an antitrust case. So we were accused of collusion with other crypto actors in doing something as developers. And here is the deal, like we didn't lose the case, but the problem is like, even if you don't lose the case, actually, like I didn't lose any of the case. We won the case in the UK as well. But the problem is you have to pay lawyers. It takes many months. Sometimes it takes years. The one in the US took several months. The one in the UK took several years, actually. And during all that time, you have to pay a bunch of fees and lawyers and whatnot. You have to spend a lot of your personal time to inform everybody about like the fact of the matter and the situation and explain to them, because most of the people you're going to talk with, you know, they are like judiciary expert and lawyers and stuff like that, and they don't know the intricacies of blockchains, right? And so you have to spend a lot of time and money to defend yourself. And at the end of it, like several years later, you get paid back because you won. But realistically, a lot of people cannot afford that, right? And
but so, are there people, private people, who sue you then, or is it some government institution, or who has to pay you back? Who runs the risk of losing and having to pay this money back? Is that the state, or is it a private?
Waiver attacks. So in my case, the one in the US was a company, and in the UK was an individual. The UK was Craig Wright, actually. Like, I think we can name him. He's fairly well known.
And then he has to pay the cost since he lost now.
Yes, but not even 100%. Because the UK judicial system, like, basically they judge that if whoever loses has to pay everything, then there is a strategy by the other side where they could ramp up the cost and ask for like as many hearings as possible and so on, to just like jack up the price of the lawsuit so that they get like a bigger settlement. And so they don't want, because like imagine if you're an individual suing a large company and they were doing that, you would not be able to sue them even if you are right? And so the UK justice system decide that it's actually up to the judge, but like typically they're gonna pay back like 80% or something like that if you win. So at the end of the day, like not only you lose years and many hours of your life, but you lose some money as well, even though you win the case and you ask for nothing, right? And so many individuals can just not defend themselves against this kind of shit, right? Like even if they are in their right and they win, it's just impossible. If you are not like somewhat successful and have enough money to defend yourself, you're gonna lose by default because you don't have the money. And that's my personal case, and I had the chance to be in a situation where I could win the case. But you can think about the Tornado Ecash guys, for instance, where they developed a mixer and people use it. Obviously, like you should expect some bad people to use a mixer, I guess. But they were accused of essentially like being complicit in what those bad people were doing, even though what they did is like develop a mixer. It's just like, you build a knife and someone used your knife to murder someone, and suddenly you're considered to be complicit because you built the knife, right?
Yeah, and that's
they want to do the same thing with guns, right? The gun manufacturer is responsible for murders. There's also a large push.
So, yeah, but right now it's not the law, but it's the law for software developer, at least in the Netherlands so far. But it's the kind of thing that legislators are pushing for everywhere.
Yeah.
And so,
what kind of amounts you're talking about then? Is it how much money do you need to have for such a lawsuit?
Oh, it was
rough idea.
It was several £100,000
Wow.
to defend yourself in the UK.
Wow, that is a lot. Yeah.
That is a lot of money, and fortunately, I could do that. Like it was not just me, so we could share the expense with someone else. I could share the expense with someone else because we were both defending, and. But like that makes you look at like if I lose that case, my whole life is set back by many years, right? Because it's not like I mean, I'm not a billionaire, right?
Change.
I have a pretty successful software engineer career, so I have some money, but I don't have I don't have the kind of money where I can afford to lose hundreds of thousands in like pointless lawsuits, right? I'm unfortunately not at that point. Maybe one day, but so you're seriously looking at your life being set back by like many years of work to set yourself up and save and invest and whatnot that would be like just vaporized.
Sure.
It could be also if you get this 100,000 back after many years that it's worthless.
Oh yeah. So but it's not worthless, but you lose all the you lose a ton of money, right? Because to be able to pay it's not like you have hundreds of thousands in cash, under your mattress ready to be spent for this kind of stuff. So you have to sell assets to do that, and so you have to pay taxes on the asset that you sold, and you don't get reimbursed the taxes, right? So even like if you want to defend yourself for 100K and the tax is like 30%, you have to sell 150K worth of asset. And at the end of the day, people are like, well, you won, we're going to give you your 100K back. Well, but I pay 50K in taxes on top of that, right? Well, tough luck. This is taxes. This is not our problem, right? So,
yeah. And then those assets over that course of time, if it's a crypto asset,
yeah, exactly. Like the
hundreds of
assets
percent
in crypto have exploded during that time, and you obviously cannot ride that wave. So the actual loss in practice is very substantial.
Yeah, and you could even have I know in the Netherlands that happens a lot, that the other side goes bankrupt, or they have some special limited company that just is used for this court case. And if you lose, then they just blow it, and then you don't see anything back.
Yeah.
So that was a risk for us, and so what we did was ask for what they call security for cost in the UK, And it's when you suspect that this kind of stuff could happen, the court is going to ask for the person who attacks to put some money aside in some special account. And if they win, they get that money back.
Oh, yeah.
But if they lose, that money is used to pay back like whatever expenses they cause the other party to have. But this is not something that exists by default. You have to ask for it. There is a hearing for it. And so it jack up the cost of the procedure that much more.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not obvious that you want to do that, right? Because it's more expensive at the end of the day. But in that case, we were like pretty confident that there was a risk that the dude just disappeared without paying anything. So we went for it. But it makes the procedure longer and more expensive. So,
well, I guess, Amaury, we should thank you on behalf of all crypto users. I really hope that future legislation will not change you or will not make you change your drive to develop these tools for us to experience more financial freedom. I don't want to keep you forever because you said you were a little bit tight on time, or not?
Well, we still have a few minutes, but yeah,
I have one more observation I noticed when I had a startup, that when it was during the .com bust, when the .com bust happened, that you suddenly get sued from all kinds of directions, because there's a lot of companies that if they go down, that they grab onto every straw they can, and they just start suing everyone around them in the hope that that some of it is lucky, and if they go down, they would go down anyway. So
nothing to lose.
But can't you develop anonymously, like Satoshi, or is that not possible?
Oh, it is possible, and some people are doing it. Actually, I think we went through like a V curve with that. I think like in the early days, most people were anonymous. And then, like over the years, and there was no crackdown and so on, more people started doing it publicly. But now we have a resurgence of people doing anonymous development. And I think like the regulatory risk, the regulatory risk is the reason.
Yeah, and that one is growing. That's what I can clearly see, because governments are slow and inefficient, but if you give them enough time, they will catch up, and so...
There is that, and there are other perverse effects that people are not talking too much about, but I think like in all the common law systems, so that would be at least the UK and the US and like some other country, when you are in the common law system, there is a bias from the court to proceed on this kind of case, because whatever is decided by the judge is going to be like the de facto law going forward.
Yeah,
right. And so the judges are incentivized to take all kind of cases, even if the cases are completely stupid and are not going to amount to anything, because they get to be the first to apply the law in like a new area of life, right? And decide how the law is to be interpreted in that area, in that context. And so you have a huge bias for common law systems to proceed with the cases.
It's also, I'm still surprised, given all the arrests and lawsuits, that there are still no KYC exchanges, and there's still. I would say that, these people are almost committing financial suicide who run that, because at some point, probably they will.
Well, yeah, they have to operate from jurisdiction where it's not required, but there are less and less of them. But also,
then you get the thing that you have customers from another jurisdiction, and the EU says like, "Oh, if you have an EU member as a, then we put a sanction. You will put you on a sanction list." Or
well, they can do sanctions and stuff like that, but like they don't have authority. Like if you run out of some crazy country, like Panama or whatever, that don't have this kind of legislation. The EU don't have authority over Panama, so at the end of the day, they can go over their own citizen because they use an illegal service, or they can, put pressure on the banks and stuff like that to make everything difficult. But they cannot really arrest the people unless they go to the EU.
Yeah, but recently with these 59 people that the EU put on a sanction list, there were 2 Swiss there and this Jacques Boot and this Natalie, what is the name?
I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
This is
Swiss
it's
Cameroon.
funny because this is something I've been talking about for many years, and usually like people, they are more or less incredulous when I discuss that, or they don't seem, you know, like to realize. But I was saying like in that century, like the equivalent, you know, last century, they were the gulags, they were like concentration camp and whatever, like the big authoritarian regime. They built like those huge machines to, you know, like capture dissident and essentially ruin their life one way or another, right? And it's, you know, it's very strong image in the mind of people, right? Because this is what an authoritarian regime is associated with in the mind of people. But the thing is like running, and what I'm gonna say is gonna sound like a bit insensitive because I'm putting myself in the position of the regime here. But this kind of system is not that good for the regime itself, because it's just like a lot of work and infrastructure and supply chain and whatever to get those things running. Obviously, like there are many other reasons humanitarian for which those are bad, right? But I'm putting myself in the shoe of the regime here. Yeah. And from the regime's perspective, it's not even that great of a solution, right? Like you have this huge machinery to run to capture all those dissidents and send them like in Siberia or whatever, doing random shit and die in the process if possible, right? And so it's probably not what authoritarian regime are gonna do this century, because they have a much better tool. And this is what we saw with people like Patrick Beau, for instance. This is what we see. Like, no, the government control the monetary system because it's all digital now and it goes through intermediary, right? There is almost no cash anymore. And the government can control that. And mostly it's done extrajudicially, right? And so they can say, well, this guy, he cannot like use the banking services of the European Union. Well, tough luck, because he lives in Belgium. So what does he do? No, he cannot pay rent. He cannot buy food. He cannot like even travel somewhere else where he could, you know.
He can walk. He can walk.
No, so, but this Natalie lady she was Swiss Cameroon, and she couldn't board a flight in Africa, internally in Africa, because she was put on an EU sanction list. And you have not even violated the law. They just put you on a sanction list without a law. There's no repeal.
No, yeah, it's completely done extrajudicially. And your life is completely fucked if that happens to you. Yeah. Your life is completely fucked because you cannot do anything by yourself anymore. You cannot even buy food, right? And like you can imagine that very quickly that's going to be an issue. And you cannot pay the rent, right? So it's like I've been saying like for many, many years, this is what the gulag of this century are going to look like, is people unplugging you from the monetary system. And suddenly, like your life is hell on earth, right?
Well, and I want to make a small comment here because I live unbanked since 2014. My bank accounts were shut down because of Bitcoin, and when it happened, I made a conscious decision to try my luck and never go back. So I can completely agree that it's very difficult, but it's doable. Even better, I managed to buy a house. Last year, so
but you need friends for that.
You need friends.
Because this Natalie also said that her son was also not able to buy stuff on Amazon anymore, just because he has the same name. It's a relative, so they also screw your relative. So it's not that you just say, okay, I let everything go through my relative's bank account. They are also hit.
Yeah.
Yep. And so like I'm glad you're mentioning that. I'm not doing that anymore, but I did live, bankless for many years actually. And well, the only tool that allows you to do that in that modern world is crypto, right? Like without crypto, you'd be completely screwed. And like this is one of the big motivator for me. I don't want those gulag of this century to happen, and they're way too easy to put in place, and so we need to have like other options.
Yeah, and it also went really fast from we need this for terrorism to we need to shut some people up who don't agree with the regime.
Oh, it's always the case. Like, it's we need that to fight against drugs or terrorism or to protect the children or whatever, right? And in like 3 weeks it turns around and suddenly it's for everybody, right? You can see that every time. Like, look at what's going on in Venezuela right now. A month or two ago, Trump was like, well, we're bombing those guys because they're importing drug in the US. And now they are seizing like oil tankers for some reason. It's probably like oil that was
bombing started today. Bombing started today.
And now they are doing like regime change because they arrested the president of the country because like probably was importing drug in the US as well. I guess it's not because Venezuela has the largest oil reserve and debt, of South America. No. It's the drug, right? And every time it's the same thing. Like they have like a good story that is usually like protecting the children or some bullshit like that.
Weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is always a good story, but at the end of the day,
they're eating babies.
Yeah, and also the thing with this new totalitarian regime is that it can last longer because it is more pinpointed. Because the most people who stay color nicely within the lines, they don't notice even. They don't even know there's a sanction list. With a real totalitarian regime, all your family and your street is raided and they're all put in gulags in Siberia. It is much more massive. But just attack the truckers. It's like, okay, the truckers in Canada, do people care enough about them? And then also the people who donate to them, that has a chilling effect, and nobody dares to donate anymore.
Mm-hmm. And because you're like, is my money going to be going where I want it to go? Yeah.
And I think that, but it is not enough for the people to revolt because it does not hit them hard enough yet. So it's much more precise tool than the old style concentration camps.
But even like the old style concentration camp, like not that many people revolted for years, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Soviet Union lasted a very long time. If there's no ability to escape, then it just dies a suffocation death. I think that people start. Yeah,
there's no ability to escape. All the more radical people are the ones that go to the gulag first, which is funny because that happens to be usually the people that led to the revolution that put in place the regime, right? Because those are the people that know to do a revolution and change the regime, right? So those are the ones you need to get rid of first.
And they probably discover like, hey, wait a second, this is not what we wanted.
Hey,
let's
wait
do
a second.
another revolution.
Not us,
not
the
counter
guy,
revolution.
not us. but usually those are the first people to go. But like once the people who know to do that go, then it's pretty difficult. Also, the information gets controlled, and therefore, like. For the longest time in Germany, for instance, in Nazi Germany, for the longest time, most people did not know that the concentration camps were happening, right? Because, like, they knew toward the end of the war and so on, but when it started, most people didn't know what the fuck was going on. Hopefully, we have like better.
Policy, at least.
Excuse me.
It was not official policy. It was not written down anywhere, or it was.
Yeah, exactly. It was not on TV and whatnot, right? And so
but they went to holiday camps and
then they did not come back.
It's a long holiday. Hey, sorry, can I maybe try to put in one last question? Before we round it up.
We have a wheel, Do we have the wheel?
We have the wheel, but we can do that even without Amaury. Amaury, we are giving away some Ecash to the viewers in a couple of minutes. I'm going to do $10 of Ecash to anybody who joins the wheel, but that's coming up soon. First, my last question, because you mentioned the only way how to get around the banking system is with crypto. In my last 10 years, I have also used the metals. Silver has made a huge jump, is in the middle of making this huge jump. In my most recent blog post and video, I talk about how this is going to be the Black Swan event. Do you have any vision on what's happening with that? Or any speculative outlook, maybe? That's the better word.
Yes. So what's going on is loss of trust in the US dollar, right?
Yes.
And maybe it's not as visible for us because we're still in Western country. Yeah. I don't know. I think most of you are from Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so there is the euro, which is
we are all three born in Netherlands.
Okay. So there is the euro, pretty strong currency still, not as strong as the USD, but like all those currency issues, they don't affect us too much. Obviously, people in the US, they are still going to use the USD. But, like in China and Russia and South America and many places like that, they didn't have very strong local currencies. And so a lot of the business was going on in USD anyway. Also, a lot of the international business is done in USD. Right. So when, India is buying something from China, historically, they would do it in USD, even though it's the currency of neither country. Yeah. And a lot of that is going away, not like in a dramatic fashion, but slowly, like little by little here and there. Right. And so it then raises the question, like what is going to happen next? Very difficult to predict because those countries, like right now, they have like a common goal of getting rid of the US dollar, but they are not actually friends, right? And so whatever is going to replace it is very, very, nebulous, difficult to predict. But that leads a lot of central bank to buy precious metal as a result of that, like because USD reserve, treasury bonds and all of that were more or less traditionally used for that use case in the 70s. They are not perceived as good as they used to. And also, like, if you look historically at trading of precious metal, they tend to do nothing for years and then jump like crazy when there is this kind of event happening, and then they do nothing for years. So, like, this is our they do something like crazy.
So it is something you cannot easily travel with anymore today, because I think in the days of the Nazi regime, when you have this the Sound of Music story, they took their gold and they went over the Alps to Switzerland, and then they compressed their wealth into a very small volume, that is the idea of gold, and then they expanded again in Switzerland. But I would say you can probably not even move anymore from Germany to Switzerland with and not that you're safer in Switzerland if this goes wrong. But,
yeah, nowadays I'm not sure I would go to Switzerland to be honest. But no. Yeah, it's much harder. It's much harder than it used to.
Guys, come to Serbia with me and we fight the EU together.
Yeah, but even there, I would say with a bunch of gold, it will be very difficult to cross borders. Compared to crypto, I would say. So I think gold is more for people who want to stay and fight, and crypto is more for people who want to run and fight.
Yeah, also on a practical standpoint, trading with precious metal, like in day-to-day life, it's not that easy. So metal tend to be more of a reserve asset than having like cash properties and whatnot. Because like if someone is gonna tell you, okay, I have this gold coin, I'm gonna buy you something with it, but like it's very difficult to verify that this is actually gold and there is the amount that the person say there is in it and so on.
So the overall notion of metals being valuable is much more developed than with crypto.
And we have like centuries of history. Yeah. Like
in my village where I live, there is like 3 jewelers where I can, every time when I didn't know how to solve my problem, I sold a little bit of my gold. I went to one of these jewelers and I got cash for it. If I have crypto, I need to still travel like 1.5 hours for the peer to. Of course, if you have a bank account, you just show your passport and they will transfer it in 30 minutes after you sold it. But because I don't have
because
that,
you need to to trade it for cash, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a bank account, you need to trade it for cash. So yeah.
So in that way, the gold has served me well. It helped me out a couple of times, and I'm still very happy that it's around. But yeah, crypto it's more.
Yeah, no, it's actually something I came around in the past few years. Like historically, I was not too big on precious metals, like for many reasons. But like more recently, I came around with that. Before they were ramping up, but I would say it's a bit lucky. It's not just because they ramped up.
It's been you, Amaury, who has been pushing up that
price. But what interests me in those is the fact that they are very decorrelated.
Decorrelated, yeah.
Yeah, they are very decorrelated with like they do their own thing, right? Yeah. They are valuable on their own. They've been for many years. And they just do their own thing. Like they don't care if there is a giant crisis or if the tech is booming or if whatever, like people are building houses or there is a houses shortage or whatever. Like all those things, they just don't care about. Yeah. They do their own thing. And in that sense, it's valuable for that, I think.
Yeah. Well, with the move that I've been seeing recently, I really think that the year 2026 is going to bring a lot of good for the people working in our field. I always say working because for me it doesn't feel like that. It's more like a hobby that makes money. But
it's the right kind of hobby then.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate in my life, man. But so my outlook for the year 2026 is that it's really, most people are not really aware yet, but major shifts are going to happen. And the people that we are trying to reach, the broad masses who are today not willing to learn because they don't think to have a problem, they are going to discover they have a problem. Then they are going to be ready to learn. And that is the moment when they are willing and open to listen to the message that we have to
and you're right. And that's a bit unfortunate for us because we're not in control of the timeline here.
No, we are not.
You get to be ready for whenever people, feel sufficient pain that they are willing to learn. You cannot make people willing to do something.
No, but that's a kind of the message that I share to all the guests that are coming today. Be ready for it this year because I really think we are in for a wild ride.
But it's also that I think when the shit hits the fan, it might be that the first reflex is to go back to gold and silver because crypto is still seen as a risk asset for speculative gain and gold for safety. You see it also with the Chinese central bank. They dumped a lot of treasuries, and it looks like what they bought is gold. They go to crypto yet because when the panic hits, then you go back to something that used to work, or it's like something went wrong. I go back to something of the past, and I don't think they will jump to the future right away for crypto. But maybe afterwards they discover like, okay, this crypto is also handy. But yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm ready to go now. So
Amaury, thanks a lot for
great discussion.
Thanks a lot for joining. We will give away a couple of Ecash now. Thanks for being here. I hope to do this again next year, maybe somewhere halfway the year we can even meet or whatever. Let's stay in touch. Thanks a lot for being here.
You have my
and
contact
I wish
anyway,
so have a good rest of your year and all the best, man.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
You too. Happy New Year.
Ciao, ciao. Okay, that was Amaury. To honor his visit, the wheel is going to be set up by Johan and all.
It's already there.
It's already there. I'm not watching the stream at the moment, but all the Twitch viewers can write !Ron Paul to get their name on the wheel.
You can write anything. You can also !Greg Wright or
Amaury. Okay.
Or Amaury. Satoshi Nakamoto.
So let's get that set up, and then there is a little gap in the planning because this was the hour of Vlad Kostea the host of the Bitcoin Takeover podcast, who is unfortunately not able to make it today because he is sick with the flu. He is in bed. We wish him, of course, a speedy recovery, but unfortunately he is not able to make it. So I have written a small blog post that I think I will fill this 30 hours with. Maybe it's going to be even less that we have to fill up. But I have a little bit of content prepared. So let's get to that in a minute. Do we already have some people on the wheel?
Yeah, 4 names, and 2 of them are...
I will put myself on the wheel also, in case...
There's 3 of us on the wheel.
Oh, 3 is us.
No, at this moment, 2 listeners. And,
yeah, okay. Of course, all the interviews and everything that we are doing is going to be uploaded to the internet. So people who want to watch the show at a later moment can always do that. Let me write something so that I'm also on the list. And then in case that we spin on my name, I will make it, we will double the price. Have a joker inside.
And in my case, it will go to the Vrijheidradio for a new mic or whatever, new webcam.
I am going to put some wood on my fire, and I'll be back in a minute.
Shall I spin the wheel then?
Spin it.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, here it goes. And it will be. It looks like it's this Garfield Scorpio. Yeah. Garfield Scorpio is the winner. She will win 10 euros of Ecash. And yeah, therefore you need an Ecash wallet.
Where is it? What kind of wallet can you use for that?
An Ecash wallet, I think.
Only Ecash wallet itself.
Yeah, we will ask Yoshi. Yeah. And yeah, good. I have no